1. It's daylight savings time. Some of us are feeling it worse than others, but we are here to talk hockey on a Sunday morning with you, or wherever you're listening. Hello, welcome to the Hockey Podcast. Happy International Women's Day as we are recording this. My name is Kevin Olenek. You can follow us, of course, on Twitter at podcast_hockey. Find us on Facebook, the Hockey Podcast. Subscribe on your favorite platform of podcasts, including Apple, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And, of course, Spreaker.com, KVOLE is where you can find all the podcasts. And Heidi, happy International Women's Day, and how are you?
I am good, thank you, and thank you for the well wish. It's a cool day today. There's lots going on for it, and be excited to watch some hockey later on with some different broadcasters.
Yes, I'm also looking forward to that. Tyler, hello.
Hello, Kevin. Nice to chat with you. Nice to have the gang back together again. We got Chris this time, so I'm looking forward to another podcast here.
Yes, Chris is with us. Hello.
Hello. I don't have a buttload of homework this weekend, so I can actually be here this time.
Yeah. Yes. I do have a buttload of homework, but we'll get to it. Devin, hello.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Great. You're doing all right?
Yeah, I think partying a bit last night for Sean's birthday and having the time changes. I'm so tired, but I'm happy to be here.
Yes, Sean, I have received a message from someone who wanted to wish you a happy birthday. Here it is. I don't know why it's not playing. Oh, there it is. Yes, there you go. Happy birthday to Sean from all the dogs. I understood that Jake Virtanen's dog was in that. Bo Horvat's dog was in that. Troy Stetcher's dog, I think, may have been in that as well. But I can't confirm that, but it was directly for you, as it is your birthday this weekend.
Thanks, Kev. Yeah, it was a fun night last night, and as Devin said, between that and the spring ahead time change, it's a little tired, but we'll have a good podcast here.
Yes, we will get into. We've got some very interesting topics to get into here as I get things found here. So how is everyone talking through the week here? How is everyone feeling about their team at this particular point in time? Let's start there.
Well, for me, I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful about the Flames. They're looking better. There's still a little bit of consistency issues, but they are looking better, which is making me a little bit more hopeful that we will actually still make the playoffs. It's nice to see that Johnny's going a little bit, and TJ Brody, and that I think is kind of helping things out. But it'll be an interesting couple weeks. I'm not making any decisions until playoff spots are clinched.
Friday night for the Canucks, for me, that was a feeling of relief. Pretty big score. But the main thing was a few guys that were under fire with the fans, such as Stetcher and Roussel. They registered on the score sheet there. So, for now, some relief. But, you see the Canucks in the wild card chase as opposed to one of those divisional playoff spots. And it just makes me very uncomfortable still.
Yeah, I feel fairly similarly to Tyler there in the sense that the losing streak was definitely not helpful for our playoff chances, but that most recent win that we had on Friday was a little encouraging to see. Hopefully we can keep that going.
Yeah, the butt pucker nervousness is definitely there with the Canucks in this absolute schmozzle of a playoff race with what they're tied with like 3 teams for the second second wild card right now. So it's definitely nerve wracking, but I'm feeling okay. I think they still have a decent shot.
Devin?
Yeah, Calgary is the entire Pacific is just unbelievable how everything's so tight. From Arizona at 74 points, Minnesota 75, and then Winnipeg, Nashville, and Vancouver at 76. Calgary's right in the middle, 79, and then Edmonton and Vegas are tied at 82. So it's no one is running away with it, and it could change within 2 to 3 games easily, especially with Minnesota making that charge for the wild card too. So it's gonna be fun down the stretch.
And it's interesting because it's bringing out adversity. And we go back to last year with the Calgary Flames. They won the Pacific fairly, wouldn't say super easily, but easily enough. Monahan and Gaudreau and all their top players had career years, and everything was going hunky-dory until the playoffs happened. This year, tough start. We had the unfortunate reason for a coaching change. We had the TJ Brody incident, and of course he had to that scary situation. I would argue that Flames Oilers brouhaha I think took a lot out of the team as well. And then you have this year for the rebuild of the Vancouver Canucks. I would argue that this recent 4-game losing streak, or this stretch you're in, is the first big portion of adversity that we are facing with the Canucks. And I wanted to play a little bit of Travis Green and a little bit of Jeff Ward and talk about how adversity builds teams. Here's Travis Green first.
Moving and executing with the puck. They don't need to hang their hat just on the Boston game. They played a lot of good games this year. They put themselves in a spot to battle for the playoffs. And we've been talking about that with our group all year. And I love it where we're at right now. I love that we haven't got points in our last 4 games, but we're going through some adversity, and that's okay. We're going through some pressure, and that's all right as well. And I know when we get there, we're going to be so much better off for it.
And here's Jeff Ward talking about where the Flames game is right now.
Well, it's getting better, for sure. You're always striving at this time of year to make more improvements. I think we're continuing to push that way, but our game's in a better place than where it was.
So, and especially in this, we were talking a little bit about this off air about kind of the larger big Canadian market that is in Vancouver, and even Devin would probably speak into this a little bit of Toronto. There's a sense, I think, that teams may not need to go through, or we forget that the teams go through adversity. And I'm going to start with my own opinion, because I think Travis Green has taken some heat for some of the comments he made this week. I really like what Travis Green has had to say about the Canucks. I know that it's a little bit more positive than some in Canucks fandom wants to hear, but the fact of the matter is, if you even listen to what he had to say during the pregame on Friday, this is a communication with his team about where their team is at, and he understands that this is a building block for where this team is, whether they make the playoffs or not. Going forward, this is going to help this team going forward. Where the Flames have been through this trial, they've had adversity go through all year to get to this point where they feel a little bit, they're not happy about their game. And, there's cautious optimism from the Flames fans on the podcast here, but at least they seem ready for battle. So as we go through this final playoff stretch, do we feel that we forget that adversity is something important and something to learn? Or do we just think this should be easy for everybody? And I'll let whoever wants to start.
I do think that teams and players need to go through adversity because they need to learn how to react to it. If you're not, if you don't know how, if you haven't gone through it before, you're not necessarily going to know how you're going to react and what you need to do to perform at the best of your capabilities when things do get rough. So the Canucks going through this is a good thing. They have gone through a couple of losing streaks before, but not at this time of year where the pressure's ratcheted up and you have the microscope is super focused on every single play that is made during a game.
I like how you introduced this segment, Kevin, about the fans not liking some of Travis Green's comments. Like, that just bugs me so much because, like, does no one out there realize that when the coach is speaking in the media, he's not just talking to the public. He is talking to his own team as well. His own team is listening. So if you're one of the players for the Canucks, what are you hoping the coach is going to come out and present a doom and gloom scenario and say everyone sucks? Like, what do people want? As far as adversity goes, yes, that's part of being in the playoff chase and hopefully being in the playoffs. I mean, stuff goes wrong. It's not all going to go smoothly. So I don't know. I certainly don't feel like it's that it should be easy. It's supposed to be difficult. I think we all got all of us in the Canuck fan base got a little spoiled there, seeing the Canucks in first place for quite a while. But reality has struck, and this is kind of where I think most people probably would have hoped to see the Canucks at this point of the season in their preseason predictions, battling for a playoff spot.
Yeah, the Canuck fans that tend to complain like the ones you're referencing typically are the ones that are spoiled and just expect perfection out of the Canucks, which just is not realistic of any team. So, yeah, of course, teams are going to go through adversity. You can't appreciate the good without having gone through the bad first. So hopefully this little losing streak that we've been on the last little while will kind of kick the butts of the team to get it into gear to push for a decent performance in the playoffs.
Looking like from Calgary's perspective, just with what happened last year with just in the playoffs for the Flames, like they have to know that the fact that they've had a little bit of adversity this year, or maybe arguably quite a bit of adversity this year, that's beneficial to them, because they all know like that lack of adversity last year, like it costed them. So I think that I can't necessarily see this adversity as a bad thing of right now, of like teams just like winning, losing streaks, stuff like that. So I'm seeing it. I'm not seeing it as much from the Flames fans, but I'm also seeing, like, unfortunately, from the Canucks fans. Like, your fans just seem to really lose their minds about one little thing, and that sucks. I'm hoping that maybe some of your fans will kind of think twice about this stuff.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because it's like a week or even a day-to-day basis of should they fire Travis Green or not, and him being positive in the media is, I mean, you guys are still, like, the Canucks are still in the push and still in a playoff spot as of right now. So it's, having adversity, it builds character, and it definitely, it's a good thing. If you look last year to the Flames flew through the regular season, and same with Tampa Bay, and both got pumped in the first round without any adversity. And like I said, it builds character. And as far as a playoff push, you might lose two, or not a playoff push, but in the playoffs, you might lose two in a row. And you need to be able to look on what you did this past season to get to a point where you're able to, win, get back into the series. So as far as adversity goes, you need it. You need to have it. And yeah, it is very important to have that during the regular season, especially at this time of year, right before the playoffs.
And
I think,
go ahead, Sean.
One thing I do want to say too is I think even if you've been through it as a fan base before with another group of players and all that, the fan base needs to learn how to handle adversity as well. Once the team is starting to ramp up and become competitive again, and I think that's part of what's going on with the Canucks fan base is that we're learning how to react to 2, 3, 4 game losing streaks and not overreact.
Well, I was going to say we'll dig into this a little bit, but if we're just grading and we're just as terms of like this is figure skating or diving or this is based on like we're grading a performance. I look at the way that the Canucks have played the last week, and I look at the way the Oilers have played last week, and I got to be honest, I think and even a bit the Flames, other than Friday, but I would argue, like, compare Canucks-Oilers, the Canucks have actually played better than the Oilers. Like, I think that you could make a legitimate argument in terms of scorecard, like, if you look at an overall game, the Canucks have played better than the Oilers. Yet the Oilers are sitting in second place. They won the Columbus game. They won because a guy missed a wide open net and it whapped on Leon Draisaitl's shoulder and the puck goes away. If that doesn't happen, the Oilers could have potentially lost at least a point in that game, and then they ended up winning. There's a lot of bounces, a lot of things that happen. I mean, obviously the result is about winning, but still you look at where the Canucks have they haven't looked awful. It's not like the team has given up and there's like passengers. They're playing. They just had a situation where there's a bad bounce or a bad play by Troy Stetcher or a bad penalty by Antoine Roussel or Thatcher Demko doesn't make that save. Things like that where it hurt. And I think the Colorado game was a good example of going through that adversity that Travis Green talked about. They had the lead. They lost it. They regained it, and Colorado was fighting back, but they held their own, especially in the third period. And I think it's a win that they can hang their hat on going forward. That's a win that you learn from.
I would agree with all that.
Yeah. Where the Flames, I mean, they were awful. Okay, they played 55 incredibly terrible minutes against Columbus, and they found a way to win that game. So, Arizona, the first and the third was good. The second was kind of crappy. Scorecard-wise, you can't, I don't think the Canucks have a lot of passengers, per se. It's a matter of, I don't want to say luck. It's a matter of learning how to find ways to win. I don't know if anyone has any.
I think there's part of that, but the Canucks have also won games where they shouldn't have won in them throughout this season as well. It's just that's the part of the ebbs and flows of the season.
It's just ranching it up at this time of year when there's 942 teams in a playoff race. It's tough, right?
Yeah, but at this point in the season, every game, every bounce is further scrutinized than it already is, and especially in Vancouver.
And you could definitely make the argument that Vancouver definitely had bad puck luck this past week. They didn't get the bounces that they needed.
Yeah, I don't I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. Would anyone disagree with that?
No, man.
No.
But as you were saying there, Kev, it's just at this point, as much as we want to like have them play the best, have the right process and all that. At this point, the only thing that really matters is that W. If you aren't getting the wins, then people are going to get scrutinized. Players are going to get scrutinized. Coaches are going to get scrutinized for their play.
Yeah. It's a game by game basis. Like if you don't play well, you can't dwell on it. You need to move on. And like Sean said, it's not about. Ideally, you do want teams to play the best that they can and play well. But at this time of year, a win or even just a point means so much. And it's just you got to bank them and you got to move on and look to the next game. You can't really dwell on the bad parts about it. Right now, it's if you're looking in the rearview mirror, man, you're done in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, even if we look quickly at where the Leafs are at here in terms of the standings, I mean, they did not have necessarily the great time in Disneyland in California. I mean, they're sitting 3 points ahead of Florida right now for a playoff spot. But you got to kind of hang in there and hope for the season isn't over. There's still a number of ways to battle and what could happen. So. I mean, bad stretches happen, good stretches happen, and it's just about how you learn about going forward. And, there's a learning curve here with the Canucks. Even if they don't make the playoffs, I think that getting into the playoff race, I think, will be a benefit for this team in the long run. So you can prepare for next year. But, of course, obviously, we want the Canucks to make the playoffs. But if they don't make the playoffs, there's something that they can learn from it. So, and I was thinking too, like in terms of players, a thought came to my mind because we talked last week about the 10-year anniversary of the Golden Goal. I was thinking about Jerome Iginla because 2004, the Canucks score late in Game 7 to tie it, and Iginla sets up the winner for Marty Jelena to win in overtime. And then Canada-US ties it late. Iginla sets up Crosby, and in both cases. The reason they won it was because something Jerome Iginla said in the dressing room said, okay, this isn't the greatest thing or whatever. It says, like, can you imagine being here in this moment? And, these are also great opportunities to find where leaders are. Where is your captain? Not that I'm not bashing Bo Horvat. That's not what I'm saying, but is finding where players stick through in this and kind of seeing who shines through these types of situations as well. I feel like someone was going to respond to me.
Well, yeah, your leaders have to be your leaders, and that's what the big scrutiny in Calgary is that Johnny and Monty can't really see or haven't been able to prove that they are legitimate playoff players. You do need to have that leadership, and you have the Justin Williams of the world. You have the Jelenas of the world that come up big and. They come up big in big games in big situations. So it's you need to have those players on your team, and both teams are still young and they're still learning. I feel like Toronto, Vancouver, and Calgary are kind of going all through the same thing. Is who's going to step up, who's going to be your leaders, and who's going to be able to separate themselves. And if you can separate yourself as one of those leaders, then your stock as a player is going to go up. And it's you need to have those game breakers.
Yeah, I see that, but I'm sorry. There's an echo, and I'm trying to not have that echo. Okay, there we go. But what I'm hearing from Johnny Gaudreau is an example, though. I'm really liking this, he still looks 16 maybe, but, his beard and his long hair, but he's sounding a lot more serious the last couple of weeks. I'm liking this serious Johnny Gaudreau, and he's not necessarily like, His interviews is like he's been pretty hard on his, not super hard, but he hasn't been super happy with his game, and I'm getting a sense, and I could be wrong. Maybe Devin and Heidi could speak to this, but in terms of Monahan and Gaudreau, I feel more confident about them in the playoffs this time than I have in previous years. Not saying that the Flames are going all the way or are going to win a round or anything, but I certainly I feel more confident about Monahan and Gaudreau this time than I have had before. Am I offside there, or?
It's almost like adversity actually helps you be better.
Yes.
Right?
Totally.
Sorry,
I don't know if I
it.
agree with that, Kevin. Not saying that you're wrong, but I'm not sure. I thought that top line last year looked really good, and then look what happened in the first round of the playoffs. So I'm not 100% sure whether I could say that they're more prepared. That being said, they're definitely the both of them have been looking a lot better than they have earlier in the season. I don't remember who I had this discussion with. It might have been another Calgary fan, but we were wondering if super close with his grandfather. He's named something to do with his grandfather's illness, had something to do with maybe bugging him a little bit. And now, unfortunately, that his grandfather passed away. Maybe it's some kind of burden in his head has been lifted, but I'm not sure. That's just random speculation on human nature in general.
Maybe. Devin, what were you going to say?
I think all of us as Flames fans are hopeful that they can break through this year and they can be those game breakers. And I don't know. The proof will be in the pudding. If they will be able to do that down the stretch and, separate themselves as, top elite players. And if they can't, then I don't see Calgary doing well, unless they get some sort of secondary scoring. But as far as, them being different than last year, I think you're just going to have to wait and see. But we are all hopeful that they can do it.
It's interesting going forward. Just to continue quickly with the Flames here, Travis Hamonic is about ready to come back. I'm not sure if he is playing necessarily today against Vegas, but what would you do with the defense pairings going forward? Do you... I'll give you mine. You tell me if I am wrong. I would stick with Brody, Giordano, Anderson, Hanifin, and Gustafsson forward and have Hamonic as the seventh. I love Hamonic. I think he's a warrior. But I really think Hanifin has played better with Anderson than he has with Hamonic. Brody feels comfortable with Giordano, and I think Gustafsson's a guy that you can play on the right or the left. And I think that those are your Gustafsson, forward, and Hamonic would be my 5, 6, 7. Agree, disagree?
Actually, I agree with you with Kevin on that. It's been, as I mentioned, at the start of the podcast, it's nice that we've been seeing a little bit more from Brody again. So I feel the need that just because either that Hamonic is going to be back, that necessarily that we should change things. And the new deep pairing, I think they've looked almost like they've been getting better and better. So yeah, I don't see the need to swap it around right now until maybe there is some issues there, but not right away. I'm not 100% sure when Hamonic's still going to be back. We still might have another week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that top line of Gio and TJ, and then having that depth of Anderson and Anderson and Hamonic, and then I feel like Forbort would be kind of like your seventh defenseman, rotating in and out, and having Gustafsson and Hannafin together, I think would be ideal. I don't want to see Gustafsson out of the lineup. So if you're going to have an odd man out, I'd see Forbort being one of them.
I think Forbort was brought in to be a replacement for Hominick when he was out, so I think he comes out once Hominick is fully healthy and back in the ready to play. I think he goes back in and Forbort comes out. I
think the days of the Hannafin pairing need to end. That era needs to end. Like. I don't know. I feel like Hannafin has played better with Anderson. They're more comfortable. They seem more comfortable together. They don't get beat in speed situations as much. I mean, Hannafin does give the puck away, but I feel like he's better. That's just me.
Yeah, but I don't disagree with your top four and the pairings. It's just that I think that what'll happen is Hominick will come in for Forbort and they'll put him with Gustafsson.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah. Now, going down the stretch, the other thing with the Flames here is it's been a lot of Talbot, not a lot of Rittich. It's feeling a bit more like a tandem. The first question is, are you okay? I have two questions about this. Are you okay with this being a tandem?
Yep, I'm okay with it, and I'm okay with Talbot playing if he's gonna seek out wins and look at. I'm fine with that.
Devin? Yeah, I like it. It's a good problem to have in my mind. I mean, I think everybody thinks that Riddick will be the guy going into the playoffs if they make it. But once again, like looking back at 2 years ago, Talbot. You know, he was a true number one, and last year had a bit of a falling off of that. But he is a legitimate 1A 1B goalie. So with them pushing for it, I'm totally fine with Talbot getting more of the starts than not. And once he falters, I feel like Riddick will be able to. He's such a competitive guy that he'll want to show his worth and. Also, with having the majority of the rest of the games at home, it is a little bit concerning because Riddick his home record's not that great, like we talked last week on the pod. But going forward, play the hot goalie, and if he falters, put the other guy in.
Here's my bigger question, though, big picture for the Flames. Have we concluded that David Rittich is a number one goaltender in the National Hockey League? If Cam Talbot is gone next year, are we okay with David Rittich being here as the number one?
You should be. He's a good goalie. This is his first season as the guy, right? You have you can't just give up on him in one season because he had a couple rough stretches. He was selected to go to the All-Star game.
Like I don't know how this is even much of a debate.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm fine with Riddick being like in that sort of number one spot, but I like the idea of there still being a form of a backup goalie or whatever you want to word it that provides him some kind of competition, somebody that he knows that he that will push to also take the net. Sometimes I think Rich is the type of guy that thrives from that. So, but yeah, no, I'm fine with him being one if Talbot's gone.
Yeah,
as long as both of them are stopping the puck,
True. Oh, sorry, Devin.
He's only 27. Goalies' primes are pretty much late 20s to early 30s, right? And so he's just entering his prime. I'm with Heidi. He's a competitive guy, and if you have somebody to push him more, I think he thrives off of that. So I'm very comfortable to say he is a number one. But yeah, having that secondary or that quote unquote backup goalie or 1A or 1B behind him, especially a guy like Talbot, I think it's good to have.
Would you bring Talbot back?
Yes.
I'd bring Talbot back too. I like the tandem of those two and how they see they're two very different goalies, I think, but I think they make a good pairing.
And also, I believe Khudobin down in Dallas and Halak are going to be free agents this year too. So if you can't get Talbot back, those are also really good goalies that have a 1A, 1B record too. So yeah, I mean, if you can't get Talbot back, there are going to be goalies out there that we can get to kind of tandem with Riddick.
I guess my alarm bells with Riddick came because I there have been some glaringly bad games with him this year. Then there wasn't glaringly bad games with him last year, and I'm not saying I give up on him, but I do wonder how you deploy him going. Like do I see him as a Markstrom? No, I don't. I don't. Or a Carey Price or a Freddie Anderson. I don't see that. I do agree he needs competition. I just don't know in that market if they're going to, that's necessarily the way that it's going to be accepted, but that's why, because the Oiler game at home, the Canuck game that we were at, he's had some pretty bad games that, like, yes, he went to the All-Star game, but he's also had some spectacular stumbles too. That's why I asked that.
But what goalie hasn't? Like, every goalie, I think, has like some really bad games sometimes.
I don't know if I can think of a goalie that I have seen such a stretch from, though. Like one great
Matt
game.
Murray.
Oh, other than Matt Murray. And then you have someone as a solid. You have your 1B there, though, too, right? So that's why I asked that question. Like, you do need to have, I think, like, maybe in Toronto, maybe in Vancouver, maybe in Montreal, places that you don't need to necessarily have the greatest of backups, but in Calgary, I would argue you do. That's where I was coming from there.
Well, Riddick, he's still learning to be a pro. This is his third year as a Flame, or maybe this is his fourth year. Either way, he's still learning to be a pro, I think he has the mental makeup to get to be a number one and have the retirement of Luongo's jersey last night. He was saying that it's 90% mental being a goaltender, and if you don't have that right makeup, then you could have all the skill in the world, but you can't. Once again, going back to adversity. If you can't bounce back and after a bad goal, then you don't deserve to be number one. But I feel like he does have that mental makeup to push through and become that number one.
Certainly hard to.
I suppose that provides a nice segue to discuss Thatcher Demko then, because I wonder how many people in the Canuck fan base feel like he's got the ability to bounce back from a bad goal.
He has, though.
Yeah, I think he has, but that's there's probably a degree of nervousness in the fan base about that right now.
Well, that's just it talks about the Canucks fan base and how they don't handle this. They're struggling to handle this new pressure of being in a playoff race, and I think that's part of it. Thatcher Demko, for the most part, has played really well. He's had a couple bad goals, but a couple weird goals. If you listen to Kevin Woodley this past week with him talking about the Austin Matthews goal last Saturday, that was more of an equipment failure than anything else, and Thatcher Demko now has new pads. So I think there's the worry about Demko is legit, but so far I think he's passed the test more than anything else, and the Canucks just again they're starting to tighten things up for him, and which is good, but if they can get some bounces go their way, like. And had they gotten a couple bounces go their way this past week, and say got another win, the feeling around the Canucks would be a lot different.
I agree with Sean in that regard. The only thing I would add to that is that the neurotic part of Canucks fandom is always going to be there. They're always going to be vocal about their issues, but we just have to take it with a grain of salt, because sometimes what they say is unwarranted.
See, and the other thing is, once again, he's a young goalie. He's only 24. I feel like with the amount of talent that is coming from young players, like not goaltenders, you kind of expect, that the goalies can do that as well. But I feel like that's not the case. That goalies do need time to marinate and get the experience that they need to be successful. To Chris's point, you're always going to have the haters and the Canucks fandom going nuts and expecting the best every single night out of everybody, but that's just not the case.
Tyler, what are you thinking?
What am I thinking about the goalies?
Yeah.
I'm confident in Thatcher Demko, and if I were a Flames fan, I'd be confident in those goalies as well. Look, at the end of the day, as long as they're stopping the puck, it's not much of an issue who's playing, I think.
No. And Demko is expected to play tonight, so against Columbus, so we'll see. Just quickly, it looks like from a Flames lineup perspective, Zach Ronaldo is going to get in, but no indication who the starter is. And the other thing with the Canucks here, Brock Besser is been cleared. He said he's done some contacts up, felt pretty good, so he expects soon. This is now we're going to have Toffoli and Besser in the lineup at the same time. How do you deploy the lines with Besser in this lineup?
If anything, it gives us a solid top six of you have Toffoli on the top line with Petey and with Miller, and then you have Toffoli on the second line with Pearson and Horvat.
Yeah, that's what I would do as well. It just makes Toffoli has really found a way to just make that line even more dangerous than it already is or already has been. And then you can put Besser down with Pearson and Horvat and get Eriksson out of there. Please get Eriksson out of there.
Yeah, I'm of the same feeling there too. You're not tampering with the lines as much if you just put Besser in with Pearson and Horvat, and then drop Eriksson either to the fourth line or scratch him.
It sounds like Travis Green. Oh, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was just going to add that. You got to find a way to keep Zach McEwen in there. Look at the game he had against Colorado.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fascinating because he does deserve a spot in the lineup. Like he's been intense. He's old school, as Travis Green said. Big guy, big presence. On the right side, you're fine. I guess the thing that is I'm fascinated with what Travis Green is talking about with the Horvat lines. He almost wants to use it as a shutdown line. Like he does not want necessarily. That is why he hasn't been playing Virtanen with Horvat, is because it's more Eriksson, because he wants to use it more as a defensive shutdown line. I'm gonna wait for a response from someone there on that.
Oh yeah, he is trying to use it as a matchup line, but Besser has his game, defensive game has become a lot better. Foley's as well. So if either one of those you could put on that line, you'd still be able to deploy them that way.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
And then quickly back to the Flames, Devin. What about Austin Czarnik?
I am very confused on why he's still down in the AHL. We've been looking for some sort of secondary scoring on the right side for a long time. And right now he's played 31 games and he's over a point per game. He has 33 points, 16 goals and 17 assists. Like, I don't understand what the hesitation is or what's going on there. Like, if we weren't going to use him, then I thought that, potentially why not trade him at the trade deadline? And Tree Living, he's been asked about it, and he's like, well, we have Czarnik down there marinating. He came off a pretty serious injury, and I'm just thinking to myself, well, I don't know. It baffles me. I don't understand it, and there has to be some sort of answer of why he's not up with the main club, because he's producing, and especially on the second power play, put him on the second power play, and it would be ideal in my mind. So it just baffles me. I don't understand it.
Well, Toby Reeder has done. I don't think Toby Reeder has done a lot this year. The stats will back me up, but I don't think he's been extremely effective in any way, shape, or form. So it is confusing to me. The deployment of the lines, I don't understand why Zach Ronaldo hasn't played as much. I even don't really understand why Alan Quine hasn't been up that much. I don't see what the difference is between Jankowski and Alan Quine. Other than one is a first-round pick and another is a project. But when he's up here, I found Quine to be effective. And I know Jankowski can kill penalties, but in terms of an overall game, I can't say that he's more than a third liner in the National Hockey League. He hasn't shown that to me, unless someone saw something that I have not. I don't see Mark Jankowski being more than a fourth liner right now. So that the deployment on the Flames has been very confusing to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad, and also Glenn Godden. He's a bit of a project too, but I watched him in the preseason, and I know he's doing really well down in Stockton as well. So I don't know. There's something askew there that I don't understand. I don't know if it's Tree Living. I don't know if it's Jeff Ward. I don't know. Jankowski, I feel like he needs to sit for a while. And I don't know. The bottom six is very confusing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very weird because, my biggest criticism about Ward has been kind of the deployment. It's been strange to me in some ways. Even defensively, he's been a bit stubborn to change the defense pairings at times when it's been clearly not working. But, I like the Ryan Lucic Dubé line, but I think long term Jankowski. I would like to see more Quine and Czarnik. I know maybe you could argue Jankowski's better than Quine defensively, but I don't know. I'm certainly would be more for Czarnik than Reeder for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree for sure.
But the other big story in Canuck land, although it was in Florida, was the retirement of Roberto Luongo, and here's a little bit of what he had to say.
Wasn't really thinking about it much during the season. I think it started really hitting me more when I was in Vancouver a few weeks ago for the Sedin's retirement, and just realizing how big and special a moment it was, and just got me thinking about my own. And in the last few days, obviously, lots of family and friends started coming into town and receiving a lot of messages. So the last 24 hours has been pretty intense, I would say. Yeah, it's definitely not the end. Maybe it's the end on the ice, but like you just said.
Oh, so kind of some thoughts about that. Seeing it, did it bring back any memories? And I guess just when do you think this happens in Vancouver?
Well, I was a little disappointed by the overall presentation by Florida, but like the fact that the audio was a little off, plus the fact that I want to say that arena was only like 2/3 full. But overall, I think like the stuff that Luongo said is stuff that you typically hear at most retirement ceremonies, and I'm happy that he's happy. And as far as the Vancouver question, I'm not sure if they're going to full on retire his number, but I definitely see at least a Ring of Honor for Lou.
Yeah, he's going to go at least into the Ring of Honor. There's definitely a debate to be had there, but he's a Hall of Famer in my books. He's the best goalie that the Canucks have had in their franchise in the history. So I think I'd be okay either way. I'm not too picky on that, but as long as they find a way to bring him back and celebrate him for what he brought to this orbit to the Canucks, it's going to be good. It might take a year or two because I think there are some fans who are irrationally upset about the cap recapture, but that's not Luongo's fault or anything. So I do think that it'll happen, but like I said, I'm not sure which route they go.
Yeah, I don't see his jersey being retired. I think simply because he had quite a significant amount of his career played elsewhere. But I'd certainly like to see a Ring of Honor there. I mean, he just on the basis of him being the best goalie that Canucks have ever had.
Fair enough.
Stats-wise, he's probably worthy of a retirement, but the fact that we've already retired the Sedins, having 3 players from the same era just seems a little much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Canadians have done that a numerous amount of times, and but they had some great teams with so. I mean, it used to be a year-round thing that there would be a retirement ceremony in Montreal. Now that just doesn't happen as much anymore. We'll just quickly touch on this before we get into International Women's Day here. I don't think anyone here was alive when Henry Richard played, so we can't comment on the play of Henry Richard. But I just wonder, are we currently losing a sense of place, or do we understand the historical significance of old school original six hockey and what it meant, or is that losing its place in our history? I feel like an old man asking this question.
I feel like it's starting to fade away in the collective hockey discussion conscience, if you will. It's been a long time now.
Yeah, I agree. It has faded away a little bit, but we still have Montreal and Toronto to keep dragging us back because, especially Toronto, they haven't won since expansion, so that's all they got to hold on to. But I think there is some that we need to make sure we remember, but with it being so far away, so long ago, and how the game has changed, I think it's tough to hold on to it.
Like, sports evolve over time, so there's always going to be the people that kind of continue being able to tell that story and reminisce about that era, but at the same time, like everyone else has said, it's been such a long time that you can't expect fans to be cognizant of it on a day-to-day basis, just because it's been 60 pushing 70 years now.
Well, I think we're going to lose even more once that generation kind of dies off. The new generation will respect it, obviously, but not know it off the top of their head, or have some sort of connection other than putting on a jersey that they once wore. You do have the Torontos and you do have the Montreals of the world that are, very respect the old and know what it means to put on that sweater. So eventually you'll have the same kind of history with Calgary and Vancouver as well. But I agree with everybody else. It's just too long ago.
Heidi?
Yeah, I basically echo what everybody has kind of already said. Like, yes, it's important to acknowledge the history and stuff. At the same time, the game's very different now. There's new fans. There's fans like myself who didn't grow up like with learning all this hockey knowledge and having family members, parents, grandparents, whatever, that were fans of these teams and could speak the lore as it will. So I think though there still just needs to be just like a balance of acknowledging the history, but acknowledging the evolution as well.
Fair enough. So speaking of transition and speaking of new generations and new things, today, as before, we are recording this before this happens, but Leah Hextall is going to be the first female play-by-play announcer in National Hockey League history. It will be her, Kathy Campbell-Pascal, and Christine Simpson that are going to be a part of the Vegas Golden Knights Calgary Flames game. Obviously, because we're recording this, we're not going to talk specifically recording this before the game. We're not going to be able to talk specifically about her play-by-play. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But I want to ask Heidi... I want to kind of talk to Heidi a little bit quick here on a couple of questions. For you, what does this mean?
To me, this is a big deal. I'm super excited just to kind of just hear what exactly this play-by-play is going to sound like. I've never heard the Hextall call game in any capacity, but I've heard that she's done a great job in the other games that she has called. It's a great step. Unfortunately, though, I'm not looking forward to seeing some of the reaction that I'm expecting to see on Twitter. I'm already starting to hear it before it's even started. There's always just going to be people that are going to just don't understand why this like a big deal is being made out of this or what have you. So, but like I'm planning on honestly just like really just kind of soaking it in, and I think it's great for the sport. I forgot to pull it up here, but Kevin, maybe you can find it, or somebody else that's here. NBC is doing a game today too, but they have a all female production team and everything as well.
Yeah, that's correct. That's the Blues Blackhawks game later on. Kate Scott is the play-by-play voice there, and we've heard AJ Malesko and Kendall Coyne Schofield call some games before, including in the playoffs. They'll be doing the color, and they'll have Catherine Tappan there hosting as well. So it's happening on both sides of the border. And Heidi, I'm glad you made the point. It's not just on air; it's technical as well. All the key production people are women as well, director, producer, etc.
Let me. Because Heidi brought up the online thing, and I'm going to address this to anyone that's listening now, and I think Tyler, you have done play-by-play. Mm-hmm. Has anyone else here done play-by-play other than Tyler and I?
I have not.
No.
Okay, so Tyler can speak with me on this. It is not easy to do. There is a lot going on. There's a lot that you may end up missing, like like a little bounce of the puck, a deflection of the puck, little things that just the game is so fast, even at a major midget level, that there are things that you end up, if you don't train your eyes, that you will miss. If you think that to the douche bros out there that think that you can do better, you have no place to speak on this unless you have been up calling a play-by-play game. If not, I think you need to shut up because you don't know what you're doing.
The big thing is just being able to get the words out as quickly as the play is happening. So yes, there is the potential to miss things, but there's also the potential to just not be able to describe it quickly enough, especially if you're doing a radio call. A TV call is a little different. Of course, you don't have to be as descriptive, but a radio call requires a lot of description. And if you're not able to keep up with the play, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to do the job. In my experience, when I was covering UBC hockey games, I did primarily women's, and then the odd time I did a men's game. Even at that level, the speed was certainly noticeably higher for the men's game. So I think for Kate Scott and Leah Hextall, that's what I'm interested in seeing is, their ability to now transition to a faster game. I've heard Leah call some women's hockey games, and she did a great job. Now comes a bigger challenge, certainly in the speed of the game.
Yeah. And
I was going to say as well, with Cassie doing color, being a Flames fan and watching all the Flames games, I get to hear her do color far more often than maybe some other people that might be tuning into this game. But she goes through a lot of criticism from Flames fans, and just kind of I've heard a little bit in general from other fans of other teams as well. So, I'm very interested to see. I hope it's not going to be as rough as I am expecting it to be in terms of the fan reaction and some of the things I'm going to see online during and after. But we'll see how it goes.
So it's definitely, for these women an audition, personally, I'll be certainly watching the feedback, not just from the Twitter crowd, but more so industry feedback. And if the reviews come back good for Leah Hextall, I think she's probably going to become a regular there next year in some capacity.
Yeah, as you said, Kev and Tyler, the play-by-play position is really tough, and it doesn't. What I've noticed on social media is that everyone has a critique on how someone calls a game. As I said last Saturday with the Leafs Canucks game, you knew that Jim Houston was going to be trending on Twitter because the Leafs fans always feel like he's not enough doesn't support the team enough, even though he's a national broadcaster. And then Canucks fans will say the same, right? And then there's people who don't like the tone of a person's voice or this, that, or the other thing. What we need to do right now with this is build on it. Kevin, we had a very good discussion about what we want to see from this going forwards earlier on in the week, just in our group chat. And one of the points I want to make, and I made in that one, was that we need more opportunities for younger people, whether they're men, female, or whatever, to get more experience doing play-by-play, because it's such a different, just a different skill than anything else. And when I saw that they were doing this, I immediately looked up, okay, what has Leah Hextall done? I'm pretty sure I've listened to her do CWHL games in the past, but she's also done NCAA men's hockey. So she's had plenty of seasoning, and I wish her the best and all that. I want to see more hockey content on Sportsnet and TSN where they have people who aren't household names to start building their repertoire and being able to figure out how to do play-by-play properly.
They could even get more opportunities for female analysts in studio roles too. I mean, I just saw the other day Natalie Spooner was back with Sportsnet again. I mean, great voice. Just like get her on more often, get them comfortable in the studio, and then there's opportunities in the play-by-play booth that follow, I think.
Yeah, like even Carly Agro, I enjoy like when she talks basketball. Like I'm not a huge basketball fan. But when she talks basketball, she certainly seems to have a pretty in-depth knowledge of it that I would listen to her. Kayla Gray, am I saying?
Yeah, I was going to bring that one up as well. Yeah, Kayla Gray.
I think there's more opportunities out there. But Heidi, for you. There's two questions that I want to ask. The first one is does this opportunity for Leah Hextall tell you that there may be more opportunities for you to participate in some sort of hockey broadcast field, if that is an interest of you in some ways in the future?
I think so. Like if I ever thought about and I'll give the listeners, if they didn't know this, I do have a journalism degree. I did cover a little bit of hockey at State when I was there, and so that thought of always like wanting to get back into journalism, and maybe not. I don't know about broadcasting. I was more of a writer, but yeah, I think it will. It's at least a start. I think people will see this, and bearing any glaring issues that there could be today, I think it'll be a step in the right direction, and it's definitely it's encouraging to me, and I think it should be encouraging to any aspiring broadcaster, journalist, and even just female hockey fan in general.
Now, the second question I have is, and I think it would be fair to say that the five of us men, maybe not perfectly, but I think do support this. What do you want to hear from the supporters of what's going to happen today?
I want to just hear if they're going to make an acknowledgement of whoever did a good job, like if they thought that Cassie did a really great job or Leah or whatever. I don't want there to be a point of being out there of making that encouragement because they're a woman. Of like, it's like that whole idea of, they're good for a girl, right? So I just want them to, if there's praise is going to go out, I want the praise for the role, not because they're a certain gender in that role.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's important. You gotta be good in general, not good just for a woman, or good compared to other women that have done, say, color commentary. Like if we're going to talk about Cassie Campbell, like, are they speaking clearly? Are they making good points? Do they sound comfortable? Do they sound knowledgeable? Do they sound like they're enjoying the job? All those kinds of things are what I'm looking for from any analyst.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the online vitriol that we've already seen, as we've already seen. I want to know as a supporter what would be the more meaningful way to support, because I don't have the energy to go after these douche bros that say snarky things. I don't think it's a very productive use of my time, but I want to find a way to be supportive to what is going on and speak in a very supportive way while ignoring douche bros.
I don't want to knock anything on this, but we see it all the time. It doesn't matter who it is or what gender, race, or whatever. There's people out there that are just wanting to make a comment and bring people down. And unfortunately, they always seem to target women and people of minority like who are in the minority, because they're easy targets. They're different from what they are, like the commenters are. Like, so it's what I want to make sure that I try and do, and I know I struggle with it, especially when things get a little emotional and heated in discussions, is be just show the person you're talking with respect. Show the person that you're talking to, like, just make sure that they know that you're not just coming in there and calling them stupid and all that, because that doesn't help. Like, one of the things and because I'm so opinionated and all that, I've gotten myself into trouble with some hardliner people out there, and I need to work on how I word things and how I say things. But just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean that their opinion is not valid. Where they're coming from is not valid. So show respect. And if someone isn't showing you respect, especially online, there are tools out there with Twitter and all that to just get them off, because get them off your timeline because it's, as you said, Kevin, it's not worth your time. It's not worth your time to fight with these people who are coming in with a complete agenda to just bring the International Women's Day movement down, bring women down, because they feel threatened and they don't like the change or whatever, for whatever stupid reason they have. It's not worth it. So one thing I've been trying to do, if I see someone making a stupid comment there's no respect in it, I report the tweet and I block that account. Because it's not, again, like I said, it's not worth the fight. Because they're not going to listen. What you have to do is get the people that are willing to listen on your side, and to do that, then the best way to do that is to educate people on why this is important and why giving these opportunities to people who that are different from what you're used to is going to be beneficial in the long run. And if we can do that, then we'll get more and more people on board, so that these trolls on the internet they lose their audience, and they lose they lose their power.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I do think there is a way today, or as you know, wherever you're listening to this, to speak and make sure that there is a supportive way to word things. And yeah, absolutely. Do you block the people that are being negative? For sure. And do we?
It's not. Sorry, Kevin. It's not the ones that are negative. It's the ones that are showing complete and utter disrespect to when they're coming out there. Like it's coming out and calling you basically calling you stupid because you have a different opinion, or as some of these tweets are coming out, basically just outright, flat out disrespect.
But even
because that's abusive. It's harmful for the discussion. There's nothing wrong with having a good discussion about what we can do better and everything. We've had our hands slapped multiple times for how we've handled things, and I get that. I'm willing to listen, But if you're going to come at me and basically insult me for opinion I have, then why I'm not gonna listen to you. It's the type of thing. And if I see someone who's doing that to another person, again, there's fighting them is it's a losing battle. What you have to do is as you said, find a way to support what this is.
Yeah. And
show people how important it is to give these very hardworking women the chance to do something that they want to do and they love.
Before I bring Devin and Chris in, I was listening to an interview with Pat Steinberg and Cassie Campbell-Pascal on Friday, promoting or talking about the game. And Cassie was talking about, I get a lot of vitriol and, you can critique me for my game. That's fine. Personal, it's not far. And Pat said, look, I get criticism as well, but it's nowhere close to what Cassie gets on a regular basis. So I think that's part of the bigger problem. One of the issues here is when women are doing things, whatever it is, in politics or sports or whatever, journalism, they take a harder hit than men in terms of personal criticism. And I don't think that that's been that's quite obvious to me and I think for a lot of other Twitter people. And that's the bigger battle there is still trying to stand in support in a thoughtful way. But Devin and Chris, do you have any thoughts on this or?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everybody, or what's been said already. As far as getting the haters, give them a chance to if they're being negative and you want to say something, and then if they come back at you, at that point that they're not going to listen and that they're not going to be receptive towards anything, and that is the majority of Twitter. Is no matter what. They are still going to be haters. But if you feel like you need to say something. And if they're being rude and not being receptive to what you have to say, then at that point, go with what Sean said. Go down the route of reporting it and blocking it, because there's so much negativity in the world as is right now, and the more that you can kind of show. The positivity in the world and how positive this is for hockey and for women in general. I think showing that side of it is the best way to go. As far as the broadcast goes, I'm good, bad. If they're good or if they're bad, this is still a big day for women. I personally I'm going to enjoy it for what it is. Is it going to be different? Yes. Is it going to be good? I hope so. But just in general, today is about celebrating how far women have come, and for sure critique them as human beings, for sure. But let's still remember why this is a thing, is because women have gone through a lot. Those women have gone through a lot, and women in general have gone through a lot to be where they are now and have the rights and have the same level of respect. And I think that's the other thing is, you need to be respectful towards anybody and everything. And, today is just about a celebration of women in general. And I'm excited to listen and watch and just take it all in. It's going to be good.
Chris?
I don't have a whole lot more to add, just because I feel like a lot of what I said has been covered by everyone else. But I guess to the point of what you're talking about, how best to show your support and whatnot, like you said, Kev, just in terms of maybe not emphasize the gender, just be if you're going to praise them or critique them, just base it off of what they said, not because of who they are.
Right. Heidi, I'll give you the last word if you have anything that you want to add to this.
Yeah, the only what I wanted to kind of add that just kind of came out of the further discussion was that I don't think it's going to be bad today. That if you, I think that there shouldn't be like this false, or this false praise either today. Like, if you thought that Leah Hextall's play-by-play could have been better, there is such thing as constructive criticism. Like, if you're just going to go on Twitter and just say, she sucked, she'll never be back, all this stuff, that's bullshit. But I think that if there is like as we just keep talking about respect, there's like respect there. Like, I think these are strong women who have put up with a lot. And if they're going to get called out on Twitter and I'm sure they're going to be reading their mentions. Like, I think the idea of constructive criticism will make them better. Well, so don't feel like if you, just because like you have to praise them, you have to tell them they did a good job. If you genuinely don't think that they did a good job, then I don't know how much it's helping to go out and say it on Twitter just because you feel like you have to. I don't think that that's helpful either.
Well, even the best play-by-play people like Houston, Shorthouse, Ball, Randorf, I'm sure every one of them do not feel that they've had a perfect broadcast, and there's always something that they think that they can improve. So I don't think Leah Hextall in this situation would be any different. It's not necessarily going to be a perfect broadcast because it's hard to have a perfect broadcast. I mean, the reason that Houston, Shorthouse, Randorf, and Ball, specifically those four or any other ones that you think is a great play-by-play announcer, are doing so great, it's because they've done it for so long and they practice at it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they've perfected it, right? I think what you're saying here with Heidi is the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because how do you learn?
Yeah.
If it's constantly just doing things and nobody calls you out or gives you any like actual helpful advice, you're not going to get any better.
Yeah.
Jim Robson has a great story about the he's going to play on crutches call, and because he hates it, he thinks it's a horrible call because you can't play hockey on crutches. But it's become such an iconic call in Canucks history that he has to hear it all the time.
Yeah, he wasn't happy with his Greg Adams call when they clinched against the Leafs. I've heard Chris Cuthbert comment that he wasn't that happy with his golden goal call. He thought he said too much. So play-by-play announcers are hard on themselves. Yeah. Leah Hextall, I have full confidence, is going to get a very good, useful internal feedback from the brass at Sportsnet there. I don't think she wouldn't want it this way. I wouldn't think. She wouldn't want everybody saying after one game that she should be doing the Stanley Cup final or something crazy like that. You want real, useful feedback.
Exactly. So we'll talk about that, and we'll see what happens with that. But the last topic is there's been a couple of changes here in regards to the COVID-19 /coronavirus concerns. The women's the IHF has canceled the World Women's Hockey Tournament. The NHL has announced press conferences and all media scrums will not be in the dressing room. They will be in the press conference area. And there has been discussion about games in empty arenas. San Jose has brought that up. LeBron James was asked about it for the NBA, and this is what he had to say.
But apparently the possibility has arisen of playing NBA games with fans in the arena just to be safe because of coronavirus. Have you thought about what that might be like?
Who what? We play games without the fans?
Yeah.
No, it's impossible. I ain't playing. I ain't got the fans in the crowd. That's what I play for.
So, with this, do you... I'm kind of feeling at this point, my opinion is really wait and see, but are you, like, in terms of going to games, or in terms of, I know Sean and Heidi and Tyler are coming to Vancouver, which we'll talk about here. Are you concerned about coming to games now, or just are in a wait and see mode? What are you kind of your thinking here?
I'm personally not concerned about going to games or anything like that, because at the end of the day, I gotta still take public transit to work, and I work in a post-secondary institution, so that's full of people all day. So you just can't. Right now, I feel like you just can't worry about things. Like, Sean and I are planning on canceling our trip to Vancouver in a couple of weeks just because of this going on. So, yeah, I don't see the need right now to, like, go to that extreme of not going to games. But, like, unless you feel like because you have some kind of underlying illness or whatever, that you don't want to go, then that is fine too. But I don't think everybody needs to be told that they shouldn't be going.
This may be controversial, but I think there's just this huge overreaction to what's happening. I'm not a medical expert by any means, so I could be way off base with that. But it just feels like some pretty big overreaction when you're talking about canceling the international hockey tournament.
Well, they're in Europe, in Iran, I want to say there's 194 deaths. In Asia, there's been some deaths. So on that end, I do understand the concerns over there. Europe, I guess, depends on where it is. North America, I mean, we are seeing numbers, but I'm kind of, in terms of North America, I'm feeling a little bit like here it's a bit of an overreaction in some ways, but I'm also with you, Tyler, that I'm not a medical expert.
Yeah. I mean, I've given very little thought to the idea of changing our plans for our trip there on the 27th. No, I mean, I go to Vancouver all the time.
Yeah,
different now.
Unless you do have some sort of underlying issues where you're a little more susceptible, going about your daily routine and just taking extra care of, if you're sick, you stay home. If you're and washing your hands and being cleanly, I think you're doing all you can to stay healthy at that point. And if it happens, it happens. It's just that's just bad luck. But as Heidi said and Tyler said, there's no real plans for me to change my sort of routine and how I approach things. Just because I do feel that. Especially right now, and that could change. I do feel like a lot of the stuff in North America might be a bit of an overreaction to me, but that could change. But it could also, I could see it going the way it's peaked, and we're going to start seeing it go away here soon as well. But we'll have to wait and see. And I'm not none of us are medical experts, so we're just blindly predicting based off of past experiences with all the other super bugs that have hit us in our lifetime.
Yeah, I can assure you, Dr. Nick has more medical expertise than I have. So, just so you know. Devin, Chris?
I don't really have anything much to add. You guys kind of already nailed my points. Like, North America, I feel like it's a little bit overblown right now, but at the same time, I don't fault people on being cautious. That being said, like, if an event is several months out and they're canceling it already, that might be a little bit too much in my mind. But at the same time, like you guys are saying, like, if I were in your guys' position, I wouldn't be changing my plans. I would be cautious and be keeping tabs on how the situation evolves, but I wouldn't be canceling my flight tomorrow sort of idea.
Yeah, I see both sides. I think that if something this big is happening, you got to be cautious. It is a bit of an overreaction in North America as of right now. The majority of the people who are getting sick are 45 years old and older. And if once again, you guys talked about the underlying conditions, if you have that, then take extra care. But I'm stuck right in the middle, and this could be blown up pretty fast, especially if somebody does have the virus and goes to a game. And that's thousands, tens of thousands of people that could be affected, and it could spread as easily as that, especially if it does start evolving and morphing into something a bit more dangerous. The potential could be, I'm not going to go crazy and say catastrophic, but the potential is definitely there for this to be a bigger deal than it already is. So once again, I'm stuck right in the middle.
All that being said, is everyone stocked up on their toilet paper?
Yes, actually, I was about to. Yes, I have a good chunk. I am fine for a while. I'll be okay. But there was actually a good stock at the Metrotown Superstore on Friday. So, and there wasn't a lot of people grabbing a whole bunch of it. So, maybe that part is dwindling down a little bit. But I am okay for toilet paper.
Is that whole thing just a supply-based issue? Is that why people are overbuying it? Because to me, it just makes no sense whatsoever.
No, it's a cycle of some people decided to hoard it, so then their supplies were running low, and then so people are panicking. So then they think that they're going to run out of toilet paper, so then they respond to it by buying more toilet paper, and it's just an ongoing cycle.
Oh, sheeple.
Yeah.
Yes, it's that Simpsons episode where I have no time to find the clip, but that Simpsons episode, is it time to panic, Doctor? Yes, it is. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. But I'm sure everything will be, I hope everything is okay, and obviously take precautions, wash your hands, do all those things that you do. And if you feel that you're being sick, stay home. Just be you, and everything will be fine. The one thing I got is, I have to tell you, I did see someone with a mask, and they were smoking, and I was a little confused by this. I'm like, I don't want to judge you, but I don't know if that's medically effective. But you be you. So how do we follow is there anything else we needed to touch on here, or by that silence we will move on? How do we follow everyone?
I am Beardy Canucks 03 on Twitter.
I am at Heidi Mazeballs on Twitter, Instagram, and everywhere else on social media.
And I'm on Twitter at Tnoble, Tnoble.
I am at Schneids on most social media.
And I am GordHow09 on Twitter.
How many followers do you have?
I swear I only have 10. I don't know, maybe 10. I might be at 9 still. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, we need to find a way to improve that. And I am at KEVOLE, and we'll hear from Jurgen Klopps as we close out. Just a reminder about, experts and all that.
Asking on a wider question about the coronavirus, are you worried as a team, as a club, about the spread of it or how it might affect you?
Look, what I don't like in life is that a very serious thing, a football manager's opinion is important. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. I can ask you, you're exactly the same role than I am. So, and it's not important about famous people, but famous people say, no, we have to speak about the things in the right manner. Not people with no knowledge, like me, talk about something. People with knowledge should talk about it and should tell the people, do this, do that, do this, and everything will be fine or not. So, and not football managers. I don't understand that. Politics, coronavirus, why me? I've got a base cap and a bad shape.